Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the 22. Glenn Davis with you, as always. Just a programming note for everyone is that, I've switched up. So now I'm going to be on every other week and not every week. So you'll see me on the first and third Thursdays, at least for the foreseeable future. So please remember that, and please tune in every first and third Thursday. Of course, I'm not sure what the program will be on the second and the fourth, but look for that too. I'm sure it'll be a good community program as well, and if I get that information, I'll definitely share it with you. But first and third Thursdays from now on, at least for the foreseeable future. Same time, same place. So we'll be here tonight. Please remember the phone lines are open, 621-4473. We're going to be talking about open source voting. We have a gentleman here, Mr. Brent Turner, who's going to explain to us what that is, why it's important, and we'll carry the conversation on forward from there as we do every week. Let's welcome Brent in now. Brent, how are you, sir?
Good, thank you, Glenn. How are you?
I am good. Good. So before we get into open source voting, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, sort of your background, and then we'll get into the what and the how of open source voting, like what you do for a profession, or that sort of thing.
I'm glad to. Well, I'm a Bay Area native,
right?
Currently living out in Half Moon Bay.
Oh, nice.
Ran into the group that I assist about 5 years ago, and I still work as a owner of a real estate company, green, actually the first statewide green real estate company, and
that's an interesting topic in itself.
That is sustainability again, which we consider voting to be part of the sustainability movement.
Right.
We've made sure that our real estate company is in keeping with those practices.
So hopefully we can have you back, or maybe if we have a minute later in the show, we can talk about that.
Sure.
But since we only have 22 minutes, let's jump right in. So you talked about voting being sustainable. Let's. I guess the question is, why and how to keep voting sustainable in the future? And I guess open source voting is a way to do that.
Well, sustainability is a civilization, sustainability in government. These are the issues that I believe start in a democracy with the voting, and making sure that the vote count is proper. So to that extent, inserting transparency in the equation is a good idea, and that's the concept, is to rid the current voting systems of corporate-owned proprietary intellectual property software code and replace it with open source code for numerous reasons. The obvious transparency, but there's also an interoperability created, tends to break down vendor lock-in and reduce costs.
All right, so how did we get to the point? How did we get to this point of needing transparency? I mean, technology's kind of driven us to this point. You mentioned private companies like Diebold.
Correct.
Is one that comes to mind for me, and the issues that there are surrounding Diebold and putting your vote in and not having any idea what comes out. Is that sort of
that's it?
What leads us to this?
The citizens' ability to witness how the votes are counted is really the essence.
Right.
We've seen throughout history that elections are something that bad people attempt to corrupt.
Right.
So knowing that, bringing a transparency through public oversight into the systems is the key. And due to the 2000 Hanging Chad incident debacle, a mess, we moved toward electronic systems. We advocate mandatory paper ballots in conjunction with open source ballot printing systems that really provide a high degree of verifiability to the process and transparency overall.
So it's sort of emerging, it's merging sort of the old school paper ballots with the evolving technology of the time?
Correct. Due to the volume of the counts, the clerks and the system demand the use of technology in the process. There's a tremendous amount of ballots to be counted all over the country, and in certain places, certainly, hand counting would seem to be logical, but our concept is to have a uniform system nationally so that all votes are counted through the same process.
Right.
They're all a perfectly printed paper ballot with a barcode that's also open source for volume scanning and counting,
Right.
and just breaking the counts down to precinct level as well is key, so that you don't have them being transported previous to proper counts.
Right. So let me just so I can understand. So under open source voting, right? I would go to my poll on election day, or even before election day at City Hall. I would get a ballot with a barcode that would have, these people, these people for president, these people for whatnot.
No, you would go
Okay.
to a voting system,
Okay.
a terminal, and in a voting booth, and
Okay.
you would press.
So no paper.
No, there's no paper yet.
Okay.
You would press on your choice, and at the end of your voting session, you would press print, and
Okay.
a ballot would come out of the printer that's in the voting booth, and you would be able to look at it right there as it prints out to make sure that it is the same as what you wanted. Is
Right.
what you chose. The selections you chose are on the paper ballot,
Right.
and at that point, it would, with the assistance of an election official, it would be placed in the ballot box,
Right.
and then at the end of the session, all the votes are taken out, placed on a table, and then either scanned, or you could hand count them publicly.
Oh, okay. So, in essence, it would be kind of like going to the bank ATM, right?
It would.
Similar, and then you put in your transaction, and then you get a receipt.
No, because
No, okay.
the receipt system is more akin to the current system,
Okay.
where we have what's called a VVPAT, a voter verified paper audit trail that runs internally, and you see them under the glass if you ever are bold enough to use a Diebold system, electronic.
Right.
But ours is the concept is the paper ballot.
Okay.
That's printed out is the actual ballot. No vote count is stored on the.
Okay, so there's nothing on like a chip or anything.
No.
That's-
So
okay.
so the vote count is merely the paper ballot, and there they are. So at the end of the session, the public that witnesses that precinct count should be fairly confident that the vote count is the proper vote count,
Okay.
and now you're in a better position.
Okay, so I got you. And just so the minutia, you put in all your votes. The thing comes out, says you voted for X, Y, and Z. Take it over, hand it to the clerk.
Mm-hmm.
Then the county clerk's office has a choice of whether they want to hand count it or scan it through a computer to get a tabulation.
I think that would be true. Ideally, we believe that there is a redundancy in the security.
Right.
If it is done with either a barcode wanding system or a scanner, because there are security benefits to that.
Right.
But there are a good amount of, in my community of activists, there are a good amount of people that prefer hand counting at that point.
Right.
But at least then they would have the perfect paper ballot, so you wouldn't have the voter intent issues like we saw in 2004.
Right. Right. And can you expand on the 2004 issues just for folks?
Well, in 2004, we were using a lot of electronic voting systems, and across the country, and in Florida and in Ohio specifically, there were issues surrounding those vote counts. And what we came to know, which a lot of people knew before, but with the current systems, you can't get inside the systems, the central tabulation system or the
Right.
or the systems themselves, or look at the software code, because they're protected by the corporation and the intellectual property laws.
Right.
So this is an issue that we want to move past. Also, there's an expense to the current systems where they, run to into the high millions, $13 million for San Francisco County for these systems that have to be changed out very frequently. And so our concept is for San Francisco County and all the counties to take control of their own voting systems and work with consultants that would then provide service contracts and so forth, make sure that everything was proper, but you escape the current vendor trap.
Right. So just a quick question. So, and what you'd said, so election commissions throughout the country at the federal, state, and local levels did not have access to that particular code that, say, the private company would have. So you know what I'm saying? So like the